Guys, it's customer service week. As my customer, thank you. Thank you so much. Yani, the support I've gotten is crazy. I'd have never thought about it. There are people who have their notifications on. I post content like this. Ndia wamefika. There are people who come and check every week if there's new content up. There are people who engage me on my DMs. Yani, there are people who suggest what we can discuss for other episodes. Asanteni, sana, sana, sana. To the moon and back. Me, I'll buy you mandazis and bring them to where you are. Thank you. And welcome to another episode of In All Honesty. I want to start this episode by shouting out someone really special. Mary Liz Baibwa. Habari yako? Habari tena? Mary Liz's vibes makes me happy. Good energy. Yeah. Means sijaona mtu nifurahisha hivi. So currently, Mary Liz is running a medical fundraiser. She was recently diagnosed with PCOS and endometriosis. And the fundraiser is basically going towards her medical procedure. And she's running this special thingy. So her birthday is coming up on the 23rd of October. Scorpios assemble. And she basically just needs 1,000 people to contribute 300 shillings towards her fundraiser, and that will enable her reach the mark that she requires to get her first medical procedure that is very critical to her health. So guys, I've put the link to her fundraiser in the description. Please click and contribute whatever you can. You don't know how happy I'll be if we can give Mary Liz this for her birthday. Like, this girl makes me so happy. I'm just like, si tukupe tu hii, yani kwani kwenini, you know. And with that said, let me give you a little information on what PCOS and endometriosis is. So I'll start with PCOS. PCOS in full is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's a hormonal disorder that causes your ovaries to enlarge, and then cysts start to form at the edges of your ovary. And there is no symptom that can show one particular symptom that shows that this is PCOS, because, as I said, it's hormonal. So women, we go through symptoms throughout our cycle. Hakuna time to go a break. So the only way you can find out if you have PCOS is through a medical diagnosis. And PCOS is more common than people actually know it is, because 1 in every 10 women actually has PCOS. And on to endometriosis. Endometriosis, I think, in the recent times, there's been a lot more information coming out, and I'm happy about that. So endometriosis is also a disorder where you see the tissues that grow on your uterus, the one that lines your uterus, it starts to grow outside the uterus. So it could grow on your fallopian tubes, the ovaries, sometimes the intestines. It's vicious. Endometriosis, also just like PCOS, does not have any symptoms that point towards it. So you'll just have to go in for a medical diagnosis. And I think commonly, although I'm not a specialist, I'm just saying, although I have noticed that endometriosis is linked a lot to very painful cramps in most of the incidences that I've seen. But I'm not a specialist. Don't take my word for it. There are no symptoms. You can only know you have it through a medical diagnosis. And with that said, please check the description for a link to Mary Liz's fundraiser. And you can also just DM me on any of my socials or our Olive to ask me any questions you have. Whatever I can't answer, I'll direct to Mary Liz. And let's do this, guys, okay? And welcome to another episode of In All Honesty. My fabulous name is Oliver Rao. Let's get to it. Wadau, it is hot. I don't know. It is hot. I don't know whether it's the wine, it's the lights. I can't. Kuna joto. So I think even if you see me looking all shiny, it's not a glow. It's hot. Let's get to today's episode. Today I'll be speaking about the lessons that major lessons that I have taken off probably last year and this year. Basically, I'm calling them, like every year I put out an article where I'm writing about some of the greatest lessons I've picked before I turned a particular age. So the last one I did was 27, and I just want to do the last 2 years. I'm turning 29 this year, and last year when I turned 28, during those 2 years, what are some of the biggest lessons that I've taken off just experiences, just like living life. So what you need to understand is that people change. People you can't, I think, I think the craziest thing to me was someone who reached out to me, and I knew them 10 years ago, 2011. Yeah. I knew them 10 years ago, and this person was just like, Aki, you've changed so much. Why have you changed like this? And I'm like, you expected to meet someone who's 10 years older than the time you met them, and as they, can you explain to me how you thought this would work, would play out in your head? So yeah, there's a lot of change that goes through, that people go through, and being someone who's documented a lot of my thoughts, because I had a blog back in 2013, and I documented a lot of my blogs, and right now I just look back, my thoughts, sorry, I look back and I cringe. Where? The attacking of women that I did, the sijui working to please men that I did, it's embarrassing, it's embarrassment. But then you definitely see the growth. There's a time I was embarrassed. There's a time I was ashamed of my thoughts before I saw the light. But now I look back and I'm just like, you'd have never learned if you'd have never thought like that. It's a process. And there is something that a friend on Facebook, Mildred Awino, once posted. I can't find the post, but it said you should extend grace to people who've not gotten to where you are. You see how sometimes we are woke, we understand things on a different level, and there are people who are still reasoning differently. There are people who still feel like, the woman belongs to the kitchen and I need to serve my husband like this and like that. You can't tell them they're the ones bringing a TCG feminism down. First, you need to acknowledge that different people prefer different things, and that could be okay with them and not okay with you. Another thing you also need to accept is that they might have not reached your level of growth. You see how, I think the most evident one is when someone has moved from religion to non-belief or skepticism. You see how they attack the religions, and now it's war. We are going war against all these Disney plot stories. So you actually also experience growth over time, where you do realize that everyone has their belief system and it works for them, and that's okay. And even if you don't believe, then that's fine. But you don't go attacking people for things that don't make sense to you. It makes sense to them. It makes their boats float, and that's okay. So those are some of the lessons I've been picking over time, and now I'm not embarrassed about how I used to think. I was young, I didn't know any better. We had been scouted our entire lives to think like that. So I think the conditioning is also something very serious, and just the environment you also grow up in. Because I realized there's privilege. I recognize my privilege. There are times actually just breaking away from my family and having to live in a different town where I do not know anyone. Those are some of the situations that push you into seeing the world in different perspectives. And you realize that someone who didn't have the privilege of doing that might only be able to experience the world from one angle. And that's also okay. So give people grace period to grow the way you grew. And tolerance tuishi tu, hata kama kuna vitu zinakukasirisha, unakubali tu, so long as it's not hurting someone else. It's fine, just move forward. So let's get to the lessons. Guy, this feels like a preaching from a boring pastor. Ndiye anaanza preaching unagundua, ile time yote ilikuwa intro. Haya, sawa. Let's get to some of the lessons that I've picked up when I turned 28 and now that I'm going to turn 29. One, biggest of them all, I am now soft on myself. I used to be so hard on myself. I used to be like, you're not working hard enough. You're not doing things the way people are doing it. Why are people prospering more than you? There is something you're doing wrong. You're not networking. You're not... Boss. Ilifika point, niliachilia. And let me tell you, this happened like, you see how people get saved? You see how people just say, I saw a light. And there was this profound moment. That happened for me. I was in a matatu. And I had left on time. I left home on time. I had prepared everything. I was going in for a meeting and I was getting late. So the matatu is matatu in Kenya. I don't need to explain what happened. Matatu ni matatu too. So I was stuck pale Melchizedek on Naivasha Road. I'm supposed to go to Uchumi for a meeting. I'm just thinking, why would this happen? Why the fuck? I've done everything right. Why mbona ni matatu inicheleweshe? And I think in that particular moment, I realized that it's not in my control. Hata sai, I have 5 minutes. Hata sai nitoke nikimbie, bado nitachelewa. Whatever option I would have taken, I'd have still gotten late for that meeting. So in that particular moment in the matatu, I realized, you know what? Kama huwezi, utafika na apologize and the world won't end. Okay. Na nilifika, nika apologize. And no one beat me up for it, you know. And so long as most of the things you're doing is with good intention, see you genuinely ulichelewa tu ati cause vibes. No, you honestly work towards it, but something inconvenienced you. I realized those moments of inconveniences, I'm not going to take them and it's going to hit me hard, because I used to think about it for such a long time. Yani, it just eats you up pole pole. And then I'm soft on myself in the sense that I think over the past year now is when I started to, what nitaifanya swing, you know, I can later on is fine. So I didn't have, I've always had this organized life. Well, my space is still pretty much organized, but in terms of like creating plans and doing what, if it doesn't go as planned, it's fine. Because I used to feel so frustrated working with people that you give your all, and then there are people who just are chilling, and it's them who cost you. But now I'm soft on myself. So there are times I have to sit myself down and tell myself that was not your fault. You did the best you can, this and this and this, and stop blaming yourself. And I think that's a really good lesson. Being soft on myself has made me, is beautiful, is like this. The other thing that I've learned to do over this period is throwing caution to the wind. I'm a bit more spontaneous now. So mimi kaende, you know. And before I used to plan out details, everything to the last detail. And right now, I take risks. I never used to take risks. I used to calculate. If I do this, and then I do this, and then what will be the result? Yani kila kitu kwangu ni kama ROI. If nikieka investment, lazima irudi. So, over the past 2 years, I've just, you know, wacha tuone, ikuje vile inakam. And I learned this from a friend of mine called Kare. So, Kare has been going through something in her life, and she told me, Mama, I don't even know why I was stressing when I was younger. Ikuje vile inataka. Hakuna kitu imeniua up until now. What is that wants to kill me at this point, you know? So I think I also learned that from her, and it's a beautiful thing. Ikuje vile inataka. The other thing that I learned over the past 2 years is setting boundaries. Hey, me, I didn't have boundaries. None at all. Compound yangu ilikuwa inakaa tu hivyo. Ukitaka unaingia, ukitaka unatoka. And I'm non-confrontational. I'm very easy. I'm very calm. So boundaries were important for me because this is going to be controversial. But me, I know it's the truth. Right now, I've understood myself and I'm like, I think this makes sense. If I change my mind later on when I'm what age, I'll come back here and do an episode and tell you how I've changed my mind. Now I'm not scared. You have to change your mind. Only a fool doesn't. So right now I realize setting boundaries is important because I'm a very convenient person to have around. And I've mentioned this in like the podcast where I moved in with my boyfriend. I realized in all my relationships, people who are around me flourish. Okay? There's a lot I have to offer. There's comfort, there's warmth, imagine I'm not lying. I am a very convenient person to have in your life, and that's a fact. So why I needed to set boundaries is because none of this was getting reciprocated. You keep giving until you're drained. And I think also, as I said, some of the things we were conditioned growing up. Like me, I grew up with a Christian mom who believes giving. You need to keep giving. You need to keep giving even when you don't have. You saw the story of the old woman in the Bible with was it like once a coin or something? Yeah, that one. She gave her last. And so that was also lessons that we were taught in church. So you give until until you have nothing, you're supposed to support even when you yourself you can't. But then I started to research and realize how mental health works, how important it is for me too to be healthy, for me too to exist, for me too to be loved, you know. And I realized, you know what? Even me, I need breaks. I will give when I can. When I cannot, I won't. And the idea of feeling selfish because you're not able to give, I'm also dealing with that, because sometimes before, I think before I would go, if I've set a boundary and then I've done whatever I was supposed to do. I've told someone, no, I'm not doing that for you. And then I start feeling guilty. So I reach out to them and then I'm like, I'm feeling guilty. So do you still need help with this? But now I've learned to, over time, I've trained myself to say no. And then even if I'm feeling guilty, I'll just keep it to myself. Like I won't reach out again. I'll just... So I'm also still working on that. That's not perfect yet. But at least now I don't follow up. I don't follow up with the guilt. So it's actually easier on me. And sometimes I also can't blame the people who are around me. There's an episode that I'll be releasing next week that is it touches on a few things in basically life. And one of them was hyper-independence, where I'm very independent and therefore you find there is actually no situation where I ask people for help. Ukisikia nimeuliza mtu kitu ni kitu naenda kulipia, it's a product or a service. Yani, there's no point where I just go like, do me a favor, you know. And that kind of, I also can't say that people are not reciprocating, people are not nice, people are not giving back to you. It's because you're also not asking. And something I learned from another friend, Teresa Faye, is that you need to be very specific when you're also asking for help. You just can't come to people and tell them, me guys, I'm always helping you and you're not helping me out. Be very specific. I'm sick, I'm not feeling well. Can someone come to my house and make me porridge? Be very specific about the kind of help that you want. But I've realized that I also don't ask for help because of the hyper-independence. So you're convenient to having people around because of the way you are conditioned to always take care of people. But then that is never, ever reciprocated. And this is in all sorts of relationships. At work, you give your all. It never comes back. At friendships, generally, you're the one who's always coming through for people. But no one ever, no one comes through for you. In relationships, you're taking care of people seriously, but by the time the relationship ends, you look back and you're like, wait, mi nilitoka nil, ya nilitoka na kila kitu, you know. So at the end of the day, setting very strict boundaries is something that is helping me. These days, I'm just like, no, I don't have the capacity to have you in my house. I don't want to talk to someone. I don't think I can hear whatever you have to say. Because again, also, people, when you're an open person, people just feel like you're the kind of person who will understand them. So sometimes people just come to you with struggles and they pile on you. And right now I'm in a space where I can be able to tell you, tell me, ama nitakwambia hapana, right now I'm not able to. Utatulia ama utafute mtu mwingine, and then you can tell them. And people come to me with things like, I've remembered Irene. Irene also has a problem with people coming back from her past and they're like, you're the one who helped me with this. Can you help me with it? Right now, I'm very big on sending people lists of therapists. I'm just like, shika yo, kuna tafuta yenye itakufaa, hata budget ziko different, whatever works for you. So right now I'm dishing out therapist lists, jaribu huko. Yeah, so I don't have to take everything because at the end of the day, I'm also human. I need to take care of myself. And that leads to the other lesson that I'm talking about, self-love. I think in the past 2 years is when I've realized the peak of self-love. And right now I'm actually scared that I would not get attracted to anyone intimately. I don't feel like I would be in a relationship right now if that person isn't adhering to certain standards that are very high. And these standards have not been set by anyone. I remember there's a time in my life where the standards were set by my dad, because my dad is where if any of my siblings is using my dad as the measure for you to be their partner, pole sana, sidhani utafika mse. unless we're compromised. My dad is everything. Yani, husband, father, uliza hizi streets watu wanamjua. So there's a time I used my father as the yardstick for getting partners. And then, of course, you're growing. There's a time you also just like, I want to experience love. And love might not necessarily look like how my dad treats my mom. Maybe people are different, generations are different. My dad's time was different, you know. So you get to that point, and then I got to the point of now alpha independence, where you you see, I think the whole combination of everything I've talked about, I became soft to myself. I started throwing caution to the wind. I started treating myself. I've set boundaries, and now I have this newfound self-love. Do you know, all those things combined, you're so comfortable, you honestly do not see why you need humans. Like, unataka tu kukuja uni stress, unikule akili. So, I found this new level of self-love where even if I'm going out on dates, if I'm meeting people, I'm not going out on dates looking at, am I attracted to you? Will this lead to a relationship? No, I'm just going out on dates to experience food, to see new places where I've been invited out for dates, to meet new people. Like, if it's a cool person, then we'll end up being something. Even if it's just friends or people who check up on each other every 6 to 10 years, it's okay. But I'm kind of open to all those things now. And I'm not, when someone starts to flirt, when someone starts to ask me out on a date, I'm not specifically looking into, will this turn into a relationship? Is this gonna be my boyfriend? Is he ticking the boxes? Right now, I'm just vibes and inshallah, and I know that the standards that I've set for myself is what someone else has to come and match. And those standards are not low, my friend. Oh my goodness. That's the other thing. These days I'm confident to brag. I used to be scared. I used to be like, no, humility. Standards are high here, high maintenance. And the last time I said I'm high maintenance, mtu aliniuliza na hakuna kitu unavanga kama si jeans na t-shirt. We, si lazima ninunue nguo ndo nikuwe high maintenance. We, jua tu, ile siku utanikatia ndo utagundua. So yes, the standards I've set for myself, there's a lot of self-love. I love my body. I love who I am. I refuse to put myself in situations where I'll get hurt emotionally, physically. Of course, that you try and control, but there's not much you can do about that. If someone wants to physically attack you, they can even attack you in your house. I'm sorry, I touched my mic. Yeah, so I only have myself. I can only take care of myself. And being the kind of person who's hyper independent, being the person who's I realize that there are people like us. There are people who, it's like you've been put in places to impact people's lives, and you just give and then you leave. You give and leave. And you find a lot of people actually hold on to your relationships because of how much warmth and friendship you offered them. But that is not healthy. You find it's always one-sided. But then, you know, this we've discussed with Irene before. Irene might be on the next episode. Finally. So I've discussed with Irene before where people try and hold on to your friendship when you don't even remember them. Because for me, out of sight, out of mind, quite literally. Kama sikuoni hapa, kama hujatuma text, kama hauko kwa social media nione post yako, I don't remember you. And even if I see you, it's not like I go, nani anaendeleaje, let me check up on her. I'll just like think about you, and then out of sight, out of mind. So I guess that's also a self-preservation mechanism for people who are very caring. So that, imagine if I went connecting with everyone and dragged all those people all through my life. You can imagine how much burden I'd be carrying. So I think that was a gift. It's bad memory, but it's also a gift. And also emotionally detached. Sometimes I look at it in terms of, it might be negative, but looking at it from this perspective where you're the kind of person who's always pretty much giving, that kind of being emotionally detached or emotionally detaching very fast is a gift that helps you move on. Because if you carried, man, you get what I'm saying. I only have me to take care of me. And right now, the soft life I'm giving myself is on another level, is up there. So setting clear boundaries also helps with letting go of non-beneficial friendships. I think now I'm really good with it, where I can just block people if you're not serving me anymore, I can go. Yani, you realize these people hold on only because you were good to them. But if you look at what they were doing for you, hakuna ukweli. So tuache tu kusumbuana, wacha kusumbua watu na kuforce friendships. And living in the now is also very big for me. I think that is, hey guys, mi hata sahi uniambie kesho dunia inaisha. Vibes and inshallah, deuces, until next time, it's fine. I'm living in this moment right now. You see me recording this podcast. I'm living my best life. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm doing whatever I want. I've decided to live in the now. This idea of always planning for the future, and I think that's what also gave me stress at some point, where everyone is like, in like 10 years, I'll know what career I want. I want to be a CEO of this company. I want to have Jengad's G5 houses. I want to... Me, I got to a point and realized, I've never even... You have ADHD. First of all, you can't even concentrate on one thing right now. What makes you think you'll plan for your next 5 years? So I realized I will plan, but only to the best of my ability. I stopped the pressure of, akiona nani ameplan, ona nani ona, So now I'm just like, let me put this money aside for a rainy day. This is my medical fund in case something goes wrong with my health. This is... I'll set money here. Kwanza, I'm in a SACCO, and someone asked me, why are you in a SACCO? And I said, I don't know. And in all honesty, me sijui mbona niko kwa SACCO. Me, I just know dividends, they be good. But ukiniuliza pesa naeka kwa SACCO ni ya nini? Mimi sijui. Me, I just saw people joining SACCOs. Me, I saw people putting savings aside. So me, I just do these things. But if you ask me what for, me, I don't have a plan. I'm just like, maybe one day, unajua the way now I'm spontaneous, maybe one day I'll wake up and be like, let me go and buy a piece of land in Kajiado. And I will have the money. So that's basically how I'm running my life right now. In the now. I'm not stressing of course I'm planning for the future, but I'm not stressing about the future. And that's a very different thing. And the last thing is changing the world, one person or one thing at a time. So there's a time when I was going through depression and like my mental state was just not correct. And at that time, I used to stress over things that I cannot even do. I used to watch a lot of news. Na Kenyan news is depressing. Guys, if you can stop watching it, stop. Because there's nothing you're gaining from it. So news used to depress me a lot because I'm feeling like I'm not out there in the streets marching. I'm not changing the world in any way. Yani, me, what am I doing? What is my purpose on this planet? And then sometimes I'd beat myself up because of other people's misfortunes. Kitu inafanyikia mtu, mimi nakuja najiuliza, I'm privileged and so I feel guilty for not going through bad experiences. I'm feeling like, what even am I doing to help those people? And sometimes I honestly cannot. Sometimes I'm thinking, I wish I had the money. I just go and take to a charity organization so that kids can be fed, so that they can be dressed. But mimi mwenye hapo nimekana 30 bob. So nimekasirika mimi mwenye hata sina fare. Like, but sometimes it was too much. But then here's the lesson I learned. Over time I learned, and this I learned from a movie, Once Upon a Something. The movie about hair, about the girl and her African hair. I'll remember it and I'll probably tag it here. I learned that you change the world in your own small circles. So whatever you do every day, the lifestyle you choose, the way you impact people around you, that's how you change the world. Changing one person's notion to a positive perspective, that's one way. You've changed the person they'll interact with will be impacted positively. That person will evil. It's a whole chain and it goes as it goes. So having learned that in the past 2 years, I'm just like, if I've been given a position of authority, I try and impact, because me, I've gone through shitty bosses before. So me, if I become a boss, then I'm going to make sure that my mental health of the people I'm working with is taken care of. My people don't hate their job. My people feel motivated. My people don't feel like everything they're doing is stupid and doesn't count. Those are things I went through, and learning this lesson that you can change people one person at a time, you can change something one experience at a time is very important. So I realized if right now, if I just keep cleaning in front of my house, then that means the cleaning lady only has the stairs to clean, and therefore she's not tired. And that way, pole, kill him too, you know? So it's not always that I wake up one day, I want to be Billy Gates and get money and just fund everyone who doesn't have money. If you think of it like that, it is hard. So always, you can change the world one step at a time. Last one, guys. Last one, ya ukweli. See jokes. Finally, I can brag. Guys, me, I used to be so humble. I used to be like, no, you shouldn't toot your own horn. But me right now, I'm deserving of the things I've gotten. I believe I am. You know, the imposter syndrome that kicks in when maybe you've gotten a job that is really good, or things are opening up for you. So you find that things are opening up for you. There's these friends who you feel are qualified just like you, and maybe things are not opening up for them. And sometimes you feel guilty. You're like, what did I attract a certain favor? Now I look back and I'm just like, everything that I got, I actually worked for. And this idea of downplaying my own effort just so other people feel comfortable, I don't think I'm about to do that. And that also just goes into the boundaries conversation. Right now, I'm willing to brag about the good things that I've received. I also realized if you have friends who are feeling threatened by your wins, then they shouldn't be your friends. It's as easy as that. So I brag. I brag. And I remember the first, was it the second review I got from my current boss? And he said, you work really hard, you're an amazing person, but you never brag about what you do. We hear about what you've done, but you yourself never say it, or you just downplay it. You're just like, okay, thank you. Oh, really? Thank you. No, right now I did that shit. It's all me. Yes, I did it, and that's me. So those are some of the lessons I picked when turning 28 and 29, and I'm happy. I'm happy for the growth. I look back from the time I was 23, 25. Now I'm a whole new person. That person who met me 10 years ago, I'm sorry for bursting your bubble, but people change. If you haven't, red flag. But I'm not about to help you with that. I can give you numbers for therapists. Asanteni sana. Check the description for Mary Liz's fundraiser link. Please contribute anything you can. We'll be so grateful. Let's give her the birthday she deserves. Thank you for coming to this episode. This is In All Honesty. My fabulous name is Oliver Rao. And until next week, I love you, but I gotta live you. So, deuces.